Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason and I'm here to bring you the retrospective for Oleinik versus Lewis and the fight picks for DC versus Miocic 3 taking place on Saturday. Looking back at the past event, we had an okay night. Wasn't anything to really write home about. We ended up going 5-7, so not that great. Although I wanted to discuss kind of how the picks sort of change when I put them on Patreon. We'll get to that. We went 6-6 on the podcast from last time, but 5-7 because I ended up changing out the Weidman pick, doing some statistical manipulation that didn't end up working out. Is what it is. Let's get into it though. Here's the show. Alright, so let's talk about the main event. We ended up getting this one incorrect. We had picked Oleinik, and Derek Lewis ended up picking up a solid knockout at the start of round 2. So I thought the fight was going the way I predicted it at first, with Oleinik basically grinding Lewis down, turning him into kind of a puddle of himself due to exhaustion, and it just didn't really work out that way. Lewis kind of got away with one, getting out of the scarfold choke, and I think he would have had a Kimura, but obviously the clock goes out there. And that's kind of, all she wrote, because once we get into the second round, we have a clear, decisive Lewis who wants to come out, shut the door, and ends up shutting the lights out on Oleinik. And really, that's all you can say about it. Lewis knew he couldn't afford to go back to the mat, and so he didn't let it go back there, and he had to stay on his toes, and he ended up picking up a solid win. So we get an L on that one. Things were kind of going our way, but obviously things did not end up finishing out that way. All right, moving on to the next one. We had Chris Weidman originally in the podcast, so if you're stuck with that, you were on the money, and I ended up dropping the ball. So I kind of continued to fiddle with the numbers throughout the week, found that I think Akhmedov probably should have been the winner in that one, and it ends up not working out for me. So I ended up going back on my own word and changing it out to Akhmedov for the Patreon pick, even though Weidman was originally the pick. I apologize for that. I thought I had just better grasp of information as the week went on rather than what I had originally. So I made the change. I won't do that again. I won't change things ever midweek. It's the first time I've ever done that. It did not pay off. And honestly, even if Akhmedov had one, I'd have to be sitting here telling you I didn't give you the best picks off the bat. So I've never done it before. It happened. It is what it is. The only time that could happen again, though, is with the debut fighters because, more information comes out, as the week goes on. So for anybody that's not a debuter, though, we won't do that again. And I'm sorry about getting that one wrong. I'm sorry about changing the pick. And if you're stuck with Weidman, though, you nailed it because he ended up picking up a solid victory. So hats off to Chris Weidman, and I'm glad to see him back to his winning ways. We'll see how long it can continue. And another one we got incorrect. Darren Stewart defeats Maki Pitolo. I thought Pitolo looked good. His striking looked solid. It looked like he was dancing well around Stewart, but he got caught in a guillotine going for a takedown. Stewart makes the best of the situation and picks up a solid win. Hard to say if Pitolo would have ended up winning the fight. I thought that it was very close going up to the time that he lost, but ultimately Pitolo gets a loss, and so do we. And next one we did get correct. Yana Kutinskaya defeats Julija Stolarenko. And I just want to say this right here. Usman, if you're watching, Kamaru, please take notes on Yana Kutinskaya. That's how you have a pretty interesting grappling contest or clinch work contest on the cage. No fit stomps in that one, not necessary. Yana kept control. She kept some good striking and picked up a solid victory. So entertaining for that style of fight. Usman, take notes, please. You certainly could learn a thing or two from Yana. And the next one we got correct. Beneil Dariush defeats Scott Holtzman. Solid win by Dariush via spinning back fist, but he is lucky he didn't end up breaking his arm. He did almost hit with the forearm. Dariush could have certainly injured himself, but he got away with one. He ended up picking up a solid shot against Holtzman and put him down for the count. And it was so bad he just walked away. He didn't even go over the ground and pound, and the ref waved it off, which was the absolute right thing to do. Moving on to the next one, we got incorrect. Tim Means just defeats Starpoli. Just solid work by Means. He was a veteran in there. Picked up takedowns when he needed to cement the round. He outstruck him just enough, and he picked up a good veteran win over a young prospect in Starpoli. All right, moving on to the next one here. Kevin Holland defeats Joaquin or Joaquin. We'll go with Joaquin Buckley. Holland, he was the pick. He picked up a phenomenal KO at the start of the third round and picks up a solid victory for us and for him. Next one we got correct as well. Nasrat Harpaquest defeats Alexander Munoz, dominates him, outstrikes him, basically 3-1. He does get taken down once, but Harpaquest basically controls the entire contest on the feet the entire time. And one we did get incorrect, though. Andrew Sanchez defeats Wellington Turman. Very close fight. End of the first round, though. Sanchez catches him with a good shot and does end up knocking him out to pick up a solid victory. So hats off to him. And another one that we got incorrect, Gavin Tucker defeats Justin Janes. Janes looked like a really hot prospect coming in, but Tucker ended up outclassing him in every way and picking up the submission early on in the third round. And then the last two, got the first one correct. Youssef Zalal defeats Peter Barrett, just outstrikes him, picks some solid takedowns to cement the rounds, puts on a solid performance. And the last one we got correct, it was a split decision loss, but a loss nevertheless. Erwin Rivera defeats Ali Casey, and we had a Casey in that one, just didn't work out. So, not the best contest. We've certainly had better weeks. I'm sorry about fiddling with the numbers. I won't let that happen again. I mean, I might fiddle with them, but I won't change the official pick. I'll never give two sides of the same coin. That's not a right thing to do, and I just want to own up to that one, so I am sorry about that. So, we got to move on. We got to look forward, though. Even though this contest wasn't good, there's nothing we can do about it. We got to pick up. We got to improve. We got to fight going forward, and we got to go over the picks for Stipe versus DC3. Okay, moving on to our pay-per-view taking place on Saturday, August 15th. We are going to have UFC 252, where Stipe Miocic takes on Daniel Cormier for a third time. This is the rubber match. This could be a retirement fight for these guys. In fact, I think DC is 100% committed to that. On the embedded that I saw yesterday, he's out there working on his golf swing. So I'm pretty sure DC is commentator, coach, golfer. He's no longer fighter DC after this one takes place. But he seems committed to winning. He seems like he really wants to walk away a victor and really put a capstone on his career. However, the problem is he has to go up against Stipe Miocic, basically the most dominant heavyweight fighter there has ever been. Now, you can go by eras and such, where, certain guys back in the early days left the UFC to go fight other promotions, and it wasn't really a solidified roster, I guess you could say, during the early days. But Miocic has the most title defenses. He's, for all intents and purposes, the heavyweight GOAT. Okay, we got to just go by the hard numbers. And that's why this fight is so hard for me to call. And I'm going to be honest, this is not a conclusive set of statistics. I have one going for Miocic, one going for Cormier, and we just have to basically pick one. So I'm going to go with, now the numbers are split, so just stay with me on here. I'm going to go with Cormier. Cormier is going to be the official pick. And the reason I say that is because up until Miocic got his footwork and started striking to the body, he was pretty much losing that fight. He also decisively lost the first fight. So I think for the majority of the time between these two guys, Cormier has proven to be the better fighter, the better athlete, except obviously, deep into that fourth round where he just started getting hit. And so I think we got to give the nod to Cormier just on minutes one throughout their contest. Now, in Stipe's corner, though, he's the bigger guy, 6'4", bigger frame. He's very well built, obviously. 8-inch reach advantage over Cormier. And even though Cormier deals well being the, stockier guy, he always has. He's always been able to get inside. That's still a long jab to get inside of. And I think Stipe used that effectively, especially when he was striking to the body and was able to stay out of DC's range pretty effectively in their second fight. But we'll see how this thing plays out. I think, honestly, what we're going to see out of DC is wrestling, and he's going to try to take the least amount of damage to score a pathway to victory. So as long as he can stay away from the hands of Stipe, which are heavy in their own right, I think that DC is going to make this as boring a fight as possible for the fans, but end it in a safe fashion that allows him to walk away as champion. And I think, honestly, regardless of the outcome of this fight, both of these guys end up retiring. I think, honestly, there's nothing in it for Stipe to beat Ngannou again. If he were to win, Cormier doesn't want to fight Ngannou. He's basically said that before. He's 41 years old. He wants to walk away. Stipe is also old himself, older. I believe he's 36 or 37 at this point. And so both of these guys, have reached the point in time. Actually, he will be 38 on August 19th, so he's 37 right now. Both these guys have reached kind of the pinnacles of their careers, and I think it's time to, lift the gate, let other people through the turnstile, and let them have their crack at it. Now, who ends up going up against Ngannou? I can't say. Nobody can. But I think this is the last time we see these two legends face off. I don't expect either one of them to fight again. I think they're going to go on and do different things in their lives other than fighting. But I am making the official pick as Cormier. He's going to get his wrestling shoes on. It's a small octagon. We got to keep that in mind as well, which is something I cannot really adjust for. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't have the historical data about when it was 25, when it was 20-foot octagon. So we can't really adjust for that statistically, but the smaller octagon is also going to work to Cormier's advantage as well, I believe, if he can keep this fight on the cage. So official pick is Daniel Cormier, but just no grain of salt, it is down the middle. All right, moving on to our next one, our co-main. We're going to have the Sugar Show 2.0, Sean O'Malley taking on Marlo Chito Vera. And in this one here, it's going to be a good fight. I can't see O'Malley just walking through Vera. And if he does, he might be ready for a title shot. But I think O'Malley has the skills to pay the bills, to bring home a W, and put himself in the upper echelons at 135 pounds. O'Malley has the striking advantage, or at least he has the flashiness advantage. He has the size advantage. He has all of the tools, I believe, to take a win over Vera. Vera is not a heavy takedown artist. In fact, if you're looking at straight takedowns, O'Malley actually outdoes him in the takedown department. So unless we see a guy that is a grappler, right? So we're going to talk about Merab Dvalishvili a little bit later. That's a guy that I think would stand a better chance against an O'Malley. But right now, if we're just looking at striking, we're looking at sort of a one-dimensional mixed martial arts, okay? Or just that one side of the coin, the striking coin. I think that O'Malley has Vera all day there, and that's where I expect the fight to stay. That's where I expect it to be, and I think O'Malley holds such a strong advantage, like a Conor McGregor back at 145, as a phenomenal striker. I think you have to give him the nod, and I believe that you have to give him all of the praise as a phenomenal striker. He is the pick in the co-main. All right, this next one here, very interesting. Junior Dos Santos taking on Jairzo Biggie Boy Rosenstruck. So in this one, a couple little things. First off, Junior Dos Santos looking better than ever. He looks like he's in phenomenal shape leading up to this event. I don't know how that's going to factor in. We haven't seen him in this good a shape in years, so just bear that in mind. And we know that Rosenstruck is coming off of a huge loss to Ngannou. He didn't really get a chance to put up much of a fight. It was only a few seconds long. Rosenstruck looked competent up until he was knocked out. But, it's hard to say. Both these guys have some intangibles that we're looking at. But overall, I am going to go with Jairzinho here. So the reason I'm saying this, besides the numbers, is that when you looked at the Overeem fight, now Overeem's a phenomenal fighter, and Junior Dos Santos might be a better boxer than Overeem is, but Overeem is a better kickboxer, better, multifaceted, dynamic striker, I think, than Dos Santos. And we saw that Rosenstruck dealt really well with Overeem. He had his best stuff. He's got a good chin. Is the chin still there after the Ngannou fight? We're not really sure. I think that remains to be seen. But I think if he can deal with Overeem and get to the point, now granted this is a 3-round fight and a 5-rounder, but if he can just hang with him long enough to land the power shot, I think that most of the way his fights are ending is with those big power shots. He's probably going to land at least one on Dos Santos, and one is enough to shut the door, shut the lights out, and Dos Santos has miles on that chin as well. Let's not overlook that. If he hits him hard, he's going to put him down, and he's going to pick up a victory, and so I am going to go with Jairzinho in this one. He is not, I think, as well-rounded fighter, but we're not talking about well-roundedness. This isn't a points fight. This is a full-on blood sport, and I think if you have the power to shut somebody's lights out, and you've proven you can do it against competent fighters like Overeem, you can do it to Dos Santos as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a win. Now, granted, what's Jairzinho's chin like? Can Dos Santos land enough shots on him to exploit the chin? How is the conditioning of Junior Dos Santos going to be? You know, will he be in such phenomenal shape he'll run right through Jairzinho? I don't know. None of us can. That's why we watch the fight. That's why we pay for the pay-per-view. But we are going Jairzinho Rosenstruck. Pick up a win in Las Vegas. All right, I brought him up earlier. John Dodson, Merab Dvalishvili, the machine from Georgia, the country, not the state. And in this bantamweight bout, I'm going to go with Merab. Merab has proven himself to be a really, really great fighter. He hasn't lost since Ricky Simone about 5 fights ago. It's on a 4-fight winning streak, and I think he's going to continue this. You know, Dodson dealt really well with Nathaniel Wood, but I think that the striking and the wrestling and the combination, I think that this guy training with Aljamain Sterling is a phenomenal bantamweight product, and he's going to prove himself against a perennial stalwart like John Dodson. I think that Merab is the kind of guy that can go head-to-head against a, highlight reel like Sugar Sean O'Malley and turn him into a mortal man and take away the flash. And he's the kind of guy that is going to be up at the higher echelons in MMA very soon. Now, obviously, Aljamain Sterling has a better claim to that title right now because we're talking about him versus Peter Yan potentially, but Merab is going to be on the fast track. He's going to get a win here. I do not believe John Dodson is going to have what it takes. He's going to outstrike him. He has a better reach advantage. Granted, Dodson does get on his bike very well, but if Merab is able to get one of those legs, just one of them, he's putting him on the ground, and he's going to take him down, and he's going to sap the gas tank to take away the bicycle, to make him stationary, and box him up on the feet. I see this as a one-way contest. Merab picks up a win. That's, I guess, a lock of the night in Vegas. All right, this is one we're running back here. Magomed Ankalaev and Ion Kudaleba. So Kudaleba lost. He got cracked pretty good by Magomed. But they're running it back because Kudaleba said he was just, kind of trying to lull him into a false sense of security. I don't know if that's true. He did get hit. I had money on Kudaleba at the time. I was a little angry, but who knows? Maybe he was actually kind of out on his feet. In this contest, though, I'm going to go with Ankalaev. We saw, obviously the numbers are what I'm going with, but we saw how Ankalaev dealt with Kudaleba's power. Kudaleba was basically using gimmicks to try to score shots on Ankalaev, and I don't think that's going to take place again this time around. I think Ankalaev knows how to deal with him. He's proven to be a very, very competent fighter at light heavyweight. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and I think he's going to stamp his 5th against the Hulk. We'll see how things play out, though. Magomed Ankalaev is your pick, though, in Las Vegas. All right, next contest here. Jim Miller taking on Vince Pinchel from Hell, or Vince from Hell Pinchel, in a nice lightweight contest here. So, as much as I hate to pick against Jim 810 Miller, I am going to go in Pinchel here. He seems like the slightly better fighter overall. Now, he is a big takedown guy. We know that Miller has great jiu-jitsu, so this could be interesting here. Pinchel likes to get it to the mat, likes to work a ground and pound, but we know Jim Miller's, submission game is so competent that can he catch him in a guillotine? Can he pass him? Can he get to the top position? Can he, give me the BJJ blow balls? Can he do all of that? I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I think Pinchel is ultimately the better fighter. As long as he's able to nullify Miller on the ground, if he chooses to fight in that way, I think he'll win. If it does stay just standing, though, Miller has the experience. He has the ability. He looked really good in his win against Roosevelt Roberts, and I think he will honestly be able to deal with Pinchel if Pinchel is not able to work his whole game. So we'll see how things play out, though, but I am going from Hell Pinchel to pick up a win in this lightweight contest. All right, next one, we're going to have a lady strawweight bout. Ashley the Spider Monkey Yoder versus Liviana the Brazilian Gangsta Souza. And in this one, I am going to go with Souza here. Yoda, obviously the better striker, but has a questionable record at 7-5. And we know that we have such a great takedown game out of Souza, a great submission game out of Souza, that I think she's going to be able to win here. We know Yoder's takedown defense is a little bit shaky. It just 66%. Obviously, Souza's takedown defense is way worse, but she invites the ground game. If Yoder thinks she's going to be able to exercise a full dynamic mixed martial arts approach against Liviana, I think she's sadly mistaken, and I just don't think her striking is good enough on its own to deal with Souza. Now, that being said, 6-inch reach advantage for Yoder. And so if Yoder can take advantage of that reach advantage, stick her with the jab, keep moving, use her southpaw stance, I think she could potentially, maybe pick up a decision win, but her record says that she's not going to do that. She hasn't looked that great lately. She lost her on to Marcos in her last outing, and I honestly expect her to pick up another loss here. We are giving it to Liviana Souza to pick up a win in this bout. All right, last one before we get to the debuters, Felice Herring, Virna Jandiroba. And this one, I'm going with Jandiroba. I think she looks like a phenomenal product right now. She just came into the UFC. She's 15-1. She did lose to Esparza in her debut, but came back, bounced back well. Whereas we look over at Felice Herring, she's having a tough time right now. 2 losses in a row, both to phenomenal fighters in Kowalkiewicz and Watterson. But I think that the takedown, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game of Jandiroba is so good that it's going to outdo Felice Herring striking. And I think that Jandiroba, again, just like the Souza fight I talked about earlier, is going to be able to get it done on the mat and pick up a solid victory. So I'm going to Virna Jandiroba to pick up a win in that contest. Then the last one here, we have 3 debuters here. Or one of them is not really a debut. Let's kind of talk about this one. So Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. So Pineda, not a debuter, but he hasn't fought in the UFC in quite some time. He was in the UFC in the early days, moved over to Bellator, and then he was in LFC, then he was in PFL. So he's kind of bounced around. I'm treating him like a debuter because his stats are old. He hasn't been in the UFC in quite some time. And with that being said, I am picking Herbert Burns anyways. So just keep that in mind. But Pineda, not necessarily a straightforward debuter. And the next one, TJ Brown versus Danny Chavez. In this one, we are picking TJ Brown to pick up a win. And then in the last contest here, we have Chris Dockhouse taking on Parker Porter, and in this one I am picking Dockhouse to pick up a win in the heavyweight matchup on the prelims. In fact, I think, that's going to be the first match of the night. So we'll see how things play out. Let's go over them one more time, though. We're going with Cormier, although remember that one is split down the middle. Cormier, O'Malley, Roisenstruck, Davaliashvili, Ankalev, Pichel, Souza, Jandiroba, Burns, Brown, Dockhouse to round things out. All right, so that'll do it for this week's podcast. We're going to have the event taking place on the 15th and look forward to some of the next contests. So let's click the upcoming here, and it looks like we're going to be back on the 22nd with Edgar versus Munoz. That's shaping up to be a okay card. There's only 3 fights on there, which includes the main event with Daniel Rodriguez, Takashi Sato, Alain de Lemos versus Mizuki Inoue. Not too buzzed about that one so far. I like Edgar versus Pedro Munoz at 135, though. That's going to be an interesting fight, but they're still putting that card together, and they're still putting a lot of cards together. I know, actually, Woodley versus, what the heck is his name? MAGA guy. Colby Covington. Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley is about to be booked and signed. Supposedly there's a verbal agreement out there, so we'll have some new fights coming soon. I'm not sure when we'll see that one take place. I'm going to guess sometime in September at this point. And then, of course, UFC 254, October 24th. Quite a while from now, but Khabib versus Gaethje, that's actually the next official fight on this website here. So not a whole lot in between next week and October, but I'm sure they will have more fights coming at us soon. So anyways, if you'd like to get in touch with the Fighting Spirit Podcast, please reach out to me at fightingspiritpodcast@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with me on Twitter at MMAFightPicks01, and there's also a Patreon as well where you can support the show for as little as $1 or whichever dollar amount makes the most sense to you. But all right, I will be back to you with a retrospective and some fight picks for Edgar versus Munoz soon. So until I speak with you again, happy fight picking.